You are terrified of being found out. You walk through the world carrying a heavy, invisible shield. You spend half of your waking energy trying to project an image of strength, competence, and invulnerability. When you are broke, you wear designer clothes to look rich. When you are confused, you nod your head to look wise. When you are terrified, you puff out your chest to look brave. Society has told you to fake it till you make it. Society has told you to never let them see you sweat. Society has told you to build thick, high walls around your insecurities so that the enemy cannot find them. This is the strategy of the amateur, and the amateur's walls are made of glass. The predator, the true Machiavellian, the toxic boss, the calculating rival, can see right through your glass walls. They can smell the sweat you are trying to hide. They can hear the micro tremors in your voice. They know when you are overcompensating. When you try to fake strength, you do not look strong. You look like prey wearing a lion's skin. You look like a target. But what if you didn't build a wall? What if, when the enemy approached with a massive army and you had absolutely no defenses, you didn't try to lock the gates? What if you threw the gates wide open? What if you invited them in? Sun Tzu said, "All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive." But the warlord understands the inverse of this rule. When you are completely unable to attack, when you have no forces, you must make your emptiness so profound, so terrifying, that the enemy convinces themselves you are a god. This is the 30-second stratagem. This is the empty fort strategy. Today we are going to teach you the most dangerous, high-level psychological maneuver in the art of conquest. We are going to teach you how to weaponize your own weakness. We are going to show you how to induce crippling paranoia in your enemies by showing them exactly how vulnerable you are. We will teach you how to win the negotiation when you have zero leverage, how to disarm an attacker when you have no armor, and how to command absolute authority by surrendering the need to look strong. Welcome to the Void. Part 1. The Legend of the Lute, the Historical Blueprint. To understand the psychology of this weapon, we must look at its origin. The year is 228 AD, the Three Kingdoms period of China. The brilliant strategist Zhuge Liang is stationed in a small city called Xicheng. He has sent his main army away on another mission. He is left with only a handful of aging soldiers and civil servants. Suddenly, scouts bring terrifying news. The legendary enemy general, Sima Yi, is marching toward the city with an army of 150,000 elite troops. Zhuge Liang has a few hundred men. He has no walls thick enough. He has no weapons sharp enough. If Sima Yi attacks, the city will be slaughtered in minutes. The amateur would panic. The amateur would try to close the gates, put the old men on the walls with spears, and try to project the illusion of a defended city. Sima Yi would see the meager defense, laugh, and crush them. Or the amateur would try to run and be run down by the cavalry. Zhuge Liang does not run, and he does not defend. He gives an order that sounds like absolute madness. He orders his men to take down all the banners. He orders them to throw open the massive city gates. He dresses a few of his soldiers as street sweepers and tells them to casually sweep the dust near the open gates. Then, Zhuge Liang puts on a Taoist robe, climbs to the highest viewing tower above the city wall, sits down, lights some incense, and begins to play the lute. Sima Yi's massive army arrives, 150,000 men. The ground shakes. Sima Yi rides to the front. He looks at the city. The gates are wide open. Sweepers are casually cleaning the street. And there, sitting on the wall, is his greatest rival, Zhuge Liang, smiling and playing a beautiful, calm melody on his instrument. Sima Yi halts his army. He listens. He watches. He knows Zhuge Liang. He knows Zhuge Liang is a genius. He knows Zhuge Liang never takes a risk he hasn't calculated. Sima Yi's brain begins to race. Why are the gates open? Why is he so calm? If I march my men in there, it must be a trap. He must have troops hiding in the buildings. He wants me to enter the city so he can burn it to the ground with us inside. The melody of the lute does not skip a single note. Zhuge Liang's hands are perfectly steady. Sima Yi feels a cold sweat on the back of his neck. The openness of the city is too perfect. The vulnerability is too obvious. It must be a lethal trap. Sima Yi turns his horse around. He orders his 150,000 men to retreat immediately. He runs away from an empty city. Zhuge Liang defeated a massive army with nothing but a wooden instrument and the absolute mastery of his own nervous system. This is the empty fort strategy. You do not win by fighting the enemy's soldiers. You win by fighting the enemy's imagination. Part 2. The physics of paranoia. Why it works. Why did Sima Yi retreat? Why do people run away from a weak opponent? To use this strategy, you must understand the cognitive bugs in the human operating system. 1. The too good to be true heuristic. The human brain is a survival machine. It is designed to look for traps in the wild. When a piece of meat is just sitting on a rock in the middle of the jungle, the wolf does not immediately eat it. The wolf sniffs the air. The wolf looks for the snare. When an enemy sees that you are completely exposed, completely defenseless, and completely unbothered by it, their primitive brain screams, snare. They assume that because you are not defending yourself, you must have a hidden, devastating weapon that they cannot see. 2. The paranoia of the competent. This strategy only works on intelligent enemies. If Sima Yi was a stupid, mindless barbarian, he would have just charged in and killed Zhuge Liang. A stupid enemy does not overthink. But the modern world, the corporate boardroom, the high-stakes negotiation, the political social circle, is filled with overthinkers. Intelligent people pride themselves on seeing the game behind the game. When you present them with an empty fort, their intelligence becomes their own worst enemy. They will construct elaborate, terrifying scenarios of what you are planning, doing the work of intimidating themselves for you. 3. The disruption of the script. Every conflict has a script. Aggressor attacks to victim defends. Interviewer questions to candidate justifies. Buyer demands discount to seller protects price. When you do not play the role of the victim or the defender, you break the script. When the aggressor attacks and you agree, open the gate and sit down, the aggressor loses their balance. They have no script for a target that welcomes the strike. This induces vertigo. It induces hesitation. And in the game of power, the person who hesitates is the person who loses the frame. Part 3. The mechanics of the bluff. How to execute. To pull off the empty fort strategy, you must possess 2 elements. If you lack either, you will be slaughtered. Element 1. The absolute vacuum. Zero resistance. When you decide to open the gates, you cannot leave a single guard at the door. You cannot offer any defense. If you offer a weak defense, you prove you are weak. If you offer no defense, you appear invincible. Element 2. The lute. Unshakable calm. This is the hardest part. You must play the lute. You must be so entirely relaxed, so completely comfortable with your exposure, that your physiology convinces the enemy you are safe. If your voice shakes, the fort falls. If you break eye contact, the fort falls. If you sweat, the fort falls. Your body must tell a story of absolute dominance, while your words tell a story of absolute surrender. Let us transition into the modern battlefield. Let us look at how the Warlord deploys this in the wild. Part 4. The corporate empty fort. Negotiation without leverage. You are in a situation where you have no power. You are a small vendor pitching to a massive corporation, or you are an employee who desperately needs a job and you have no other offers. Or you are a freelancer who has missed a major deadline and the client is furious. The amateur tries to bluff using the illusion of strength. The amateur lies. Oh, we have lots of other clients. I have 3 other job offers. The deadline was missed because of a server error on your end. The intelligent enemy sees through this instantly. They ask for proof. They press the issue. The amateur's lie collapses and their reputation is destroyed forever. The Warlord uses the empty fort. Simulation 1. The job interview with no leverage. You are sitting across from a ruthless executive. You have been unemployed for 6 months. You need this job to pay your rent. The executive senses your desperation. Executive: why should we hire you? We have candidates with twice your experience. And to be frank, your resume has a massive gap. Are you struggling to find work? The amateur gets defensive. Well, I've been doing consulting, And I have a lot of passion, and I'm a fast learner. Weakness, closed gates, panicking soldiers on the wall. The warlord smiles, a slow, relaxed smile. You lean back in your chair. You look the executive dead in the eye. You play the lute. The warlord, you're absolutely right. I have a 6-month gap. I have 0 other job offers right now. I need a job. And you definitely have candidates with more on-paper experience than I do. You have thrown open the gates. You have confessed the absolute truth of your weakness. You pause. 1, 2, 3 seconds. The warlord. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why am I sitting here, completely unbothered by that fact? What do I know about my ability to execute this specific role that makes me so confident I don't need to lie to you about my resume? Analyze the psychological impact. The executive's brain freezes. You just admitted you are broke and jobless, but you did it with the swagger of a billionaire. The cognitive dissonance is massive. The executive thinks he just admitted he has no leverage, but he is acting like he owns the building. He must possess some terrifying level of hidden competence. He must be a genius. You took away their weapon, your resume gap. By owning it completely, you left them fighting shadows. Simulation 2, the apology when you are guilty. You made a mistake, a massive error. You cost the company money, or you betrayed a partner's trust. You are caught. The amateur makes excuses. It wasn't entirely my fault. The data was wrong. I was tired. Every excuse is a tiny, weak soldier on the wall. The enemy will shoot them down one by one, growing angrier with every shot. The warlord uses the empty fort of absolute guilt. You walk into the room, you do not bring a shield, you sit down. The warlord, I am not here to defend myself. I made a catastrophic error. It was entirely my fault. I did not check the data, I was negligent, and it cost us $50,000. I have no excuses. I am completely at your mercy. Tell me how you want to proceed. You open the gates. You bare your neck. What happens? The enemy came into the room ready for a war. They came in with a sword drawn, ready to hack through your excuses. But you offered no excuses. You offered your neck. You cannot swing a sword at a man who is kneeling with his neck bared and a calm look on his face. It violates the deepest human instincts. The enemy's anger hits a vacuum. It dissipates. Instead of attacking you, their brain shifts to solving the problem. They respect your brutal, unshrinking honesty. You have displayed a level of accountability that is so rare, it acts as a display of immense high status. You surrender the battle to win the war. Part 5. The social empty fort, destroying the bully. We have discussed social jujitsu before. The empty fort is the ultimate form of it. The bully, the narcissist, the toxic family member, they attack your insecurities. They look for the crack in your armor. They want to expose you. You're losing your hair. You're overweight. You don't make enough money. You're single. The instinct is to hide the flaw, to wear a hat, to suck in your stomach, to exaggerate your income. When you hide it, you give the flaw power. You make it a secret, and secrets are leverage. The warlord does not have secrets. The warlord puts his flaws on a billboard. Simulation 3, the public insult. You are at a dinner party. A passive-aggressive friend wants to lower your status in front of the group. The attacker. I saw you driving that old Honda today. Still haven't upgraded, huh? Must be tough out there in your industry. The attacker is trying to shame you for being poor or unsuccessful. The amateur gets defensive. It runs fine. I actually like it. And my industry is doing great. I'm just saving money right now. Defensive, weak. The crowd smells blood. The warlord opens the gates. You do not defend the car. You do not defend your income. You agree, amplify, and relax. The warlord smiling warmly, sipping a drink. Oh, it's brutal. I am completely broke. That car is hanging on by duct tape and prayers. If it breaks down tomorrow, I might have to start walking to work. Pass the wine, would you? The lute is the sip of the drink. The lute is the warm smile. The crowd watches this. They do not see a poor man. They see a king. Why? Because only a king is so secure in his own intrinsic value that he can publicly mock his own poverty without a flinch. The attacker looks like a petty materialistic clown trying to tease a monk. The attacker's weapon shatters against your absolute lack of resistance. You made your weakness a joke, and you told the joke better than they did. You stole the punchline. Simulation 4, the flaw display in romance. In the realm of dating, people are obsessed with putting their best foot forward. They curate their Instagrams. They hide their crazy. They hide their trauma. They build thick fake walls. And the moment the walls crack, the relationship ends because it was built on a lie. The Warlord uses the dark confession early. On a first or second date, when the other person is trying to be perfect, the Warlord casually drops a massive flaw. Just so you know, I am incredibly stubborn, I am a workaholic, and I am terrible at texting back. I am a difficult person to date. You open the gates, you show the wreckage inside the city. The other person's brain breaks. Why is he telling me this? Most people try to hide this. If he is this confident about his worst traits, he must have unbelievable options. He must have an abundance of value to compensate for this. By warning them away, you pull them in. By showing them you do not care if they leave, you ensure they stay. You are not trying to sell yourself. You are allowing them to buy. Part 6, the psychology of the tell, reverse engineering the lie. To master the empty fort, you must understand how humans detect deception. We are trained to look for tells. If someone is lying, they blink too much. They touch their face, they speak too quickly, they provide too many details. These are the symptoms of a high cognitive load. It takes brain power to maintain a lie. When you use the empty fort, your cognitive load is zero. You are telling the absolute truth about your weakness. Because it is the truth, your body relaxes, your heart rate slows, your voice drops an octave. The enemy's subconscious reads your physiology. It says, he is totally relaxed. He is telling the truth. But the truth you are telling, that you are weak, contradicts the physiology you are displaying, which is dominant. The enemy's brain cannot reconcile the two. He says he is weak, but he acts like a predator. Therefore, his weakness must be a trap. You are using honesty as a camouflage. Sun Tzu says, be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Thereby, you can be the director of the opponent's fate. When you hide behind honesty, you become formless. You cannot be accused of lying. You cannot be found out. You have already outed yourself. Part 7, Advanced Execution, the double empty fort. What happens when the enemy knows the empty fort strategy? What if you are facing another warlord? If Sima Yi knew that Zhuge Liang was actually bluffing, he would have marched in. If you know the enemy suspects you are bluffing, you must use the double empty fort. You must make the trap look so obvious that they think it's a double bluff. Let's say you are negotiating a contract. You genuinely have no other options. You need this client. You use the empty fort. I have no other clients right now. My schedule is completely open. The enemy is a warlord. They think, he's using the empty fort. He wants me to think he's confident, but he's actually desperate. I will crush him. The enemy says, since you have no other clients, you must be desperate. I demand a 50% discount. Now you execute the double. You lean into the weakness even harder, but you attach a boundary of absolute stone. The warlord, I am desperate. I need the money to keep my lights on. But I would rather go bankrupt and close my business today than work for a 50% discount. The price is full price. If you want to walk, walk. I will go pack up my office. You have called their bluff on your bluff. You have stated that your survival is less important to you than your standard. This is the ultimate terrifying energy. When a man tells you he is willing to die, you cannot threaten him with death. When a man tells you he is willing to lose, you cannot threaten him with loss. The enemy will fold. They will pay the full price because they realize they are dealing with someone who operates outside the normal laws of human fear. Part 8, the danger zone when the fort falls. This strategy is not a toy, it is a loaded weapon. If you use it wrong, it will blow off your hand. Danger 1, using it on the fool. As stated before, the empty fort requires an opponent who thinks. If you are facing a drunk in a bar who wants to fight you, Do not open your arms, smile, and say, "I have no martial arts training, strike me." The drunk will just punch you in the face. He does not know who Zhuge Liang is. He does not have the capacity for paranoia. The empty fort is for the boardroom. It is for the negotiation table. It is for the psychological warfare of office politics and toxic relationships. It is for enemies who calculate. Do not play the lute for a rabid dog. Danger 2, the leak of fear. You decide to use the strategy in a meeting. You admit you made a mistake. You bare your neck. But as you do it, your voice cracks. You look down at your shoes. You wring your hands. You have failed. You did not execute the empty fort. You just surrendered. You just begged for mercy. If you show the weakness, but you feel the weakness, you are just weak. The magic of the strategy is the contrast between the weak words and the dominant physiology. If you cannot control your heart rate, do not use this strategy. Stick to the gray rock. Stick to silence. Danger 3, overuse. If you constantly admit your flaws, constantly tell everyone you are broke, constantly highlight your mistakes, you stop looking like a mysterious warlord and start looking like a pathetic loser. The empty fort is a shock tactic. It is used in moments of crisis. It is used when you are backed into a corner and the standard defenses will fail. It is a Hail Mary pass. It is not your daily communication style. Part 9, the internal alchemy, killing the imposter. Why is it so hard for you to do this? Why does the idea of admitting your weakness make your stomach turn? Because you suffer from imposter syndrome. You believe that if people really knew who you were, if they knew how much you didn't know, if they knew how scared you were, if they knew your bank balance, they would reject you. You base your self-worth on the illusion you project. To master the empty fort, you must undergo an ego death. You must kill the imposter. How do you kill the imposter? By realizing that everyone is an imposter. The CEO sitting across from you is terrified of the board. The bully insulting your car is terrified of his own mediocrity. The beautiful woman on the date is terrified of aging. Everyone is sitting in a fort with thin walls, hoping nobody brings a battering ram. When you voluntarily open your gates, you step outside the game of pretend. You become the only real thing in a room full of holograms. You stop spending your energy managing your image, and you start spending your energy managing reality. Imagine the freedom of having nothing to hide. If you have no secrets, no one can blackmail you. If you embrace your flaws, no one can insult you. If you accept your poverty, no one can shame you. You become like the wind. You cannot cut the wind with a sword. The wind simply flows around the blade and continues on its path. Part 10, the training ground. You will not be able to execute this in a high-stakes negotiation tomorrow. You must train the muscle. You must practice the art of voluntary exposure. Drill 1, the micro-confession. In a low-stakes conversation this week, voluntarily admit a small incompetence. When a coworker brings up a movie or a book you haven't read, do not nod and pretend you know it. Say, "I have no idea what that is. I am completely ignorant about that topic. Explain it to me." Watch their reaction. Notice how they do not judge you. Notice how they actually like you more because you gave them the opportunity to be the expert. Feel the relief of not having to fake it. Drill 2, the agree and escalate. When someone gives you a mild criticism, "You're a bit late today," do not excuse it. "Traffic was bad." Use the empty fort. "I am late. I hit snooze 3 times. My time management this morning was a disaster." Say it with a calm, unbothered smile. Watch the criticism dissolve. They have nothing to push against. Drill 3, the mirror stare. Look in the mirror. Say your deepest insecurity out loud. "I am failing in my career. I am getting older. I am afraid of confrontation." Look yourself in the eyes as you say it. Do not look away. Do not let your face fall. Hold the gaze until the words lose their sting. If you can stare at your own weakness without flinching, you can stare at the enemy without flinching. Conclusion, the throne of the void. We spend our lives accumulating armor, degrees, titles, money, cars, excuses, defenses. We think this armor makes us strong, but armor is heavy. Armor makes you slow. Armor makes you predictable. The Warlord knows that true invincibility does not come from having an impenetrable shield. True invincibility comes from having nothing to protect. When the enemy marches on your position, and they expect to find a frantic, terrified peasant trying to hold the door shut, surprise them. Throw the doors open, sweep the streets, sit on the wall, and play the lute. Let them look into the darkness of your open gates. Let them look into the absolute void of your panic. Let their own intelligence betray them. Let their own paranoia defeat them. Watch them turn their horses around and run from the ghost they created in their own minds. You do not need to be the strongest person in the room. You just need to be the most comfortable with the silence. You just need to be the master of the void. Open the gates and let them fear the empty space. This is the way of the art of conquest. On this channel, we cover a range of topics like the one in this video. If you enjoy this type of content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, we may never see each other again. See you again soon.